Awesome. Thank you guys again. Thank you everybody for attending today, and Chad for setting us up. Like Chad said, this is not exactly business as usual, maybe not the most pleasant of circumstances for us to be gathered, but we all still have businesses to run. We still have our families and ourselves and our employees and our teams and most importantly, our clients to take care of. So again, my name is Pat. I'm the director of Amazon strategy at Tenuity. And at Tenuity, we're a full service digital marketing agency servicing the triopoly and beyond. So Google, Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, as well as SEO, CRO, email, creative services, and now in this time as well, consulting around Seller Central and Vendor Central as it's specific to Amazon. So we'll talk about a few of those things. But before we jump into those, I want to back up a moment and just talk about what trends we're seeing related to COVID-19. I also think too, it's good as an operator to take a moment and try to lead with calm as much as can be possible. I know it's easy to say. There's a lot of bad news going around. There's a lot of trust but verify news. There's a lot of clickbaity, panic-inducing articles. And so it's really important in this moment for us to operate from a place of fact as much as we possibly can. I know that should be true all the time, but I think in these moments in particular, it's easy to get drawn in 1,000 different directions. And so I did want to share with you, and as Chad mentioned, if this deck gets shared, there's links to all these articles and their sources here, but a few of the global trends that we're seeing across digital retail right now. And so we're already starting to see some of these, and we'll get into it a little bit more here as well, is that time spent on mobile, as you might expect, and as you're probably experiencing in your own lives, is increasing. So people are on their phones, they're on their computers, because what the heck else do they have to do, right? So there are still plenty of eyeballs to get your impressions, to get your product out in front of, assuming you still have the inventory to support that advertising. We're seeing a delayed impact on Western retailers, as you might imagine. So it's almost like a ray of light that leaves the sun. If you want to look at it through that analogy, what we're seeing right now is actually, from a period of time prior to us, before that ray of sun actually gets to us. And when I'm saying us, I'm defining us as the Western world. And so we might see these inventory and some of these issues peak, not yet, but in April or in May. If we use past as a precedent, even though there may not necessarily be an exact precedent for what we're currently experiencing, that shock phase lasted up to 4 months, and then that followed by a recovery and a stabilization period, which is not uniform. That recovery and stabilization period is unique to product type, vertical, category, or specific business, which we'll show you on the next slide here. And now, in terms of interacting with your customers, with your clients, it's a critical time to reinforce loyalty. So I think Chad just shared that spreadsheet a few slides ago where people were contributing their own ideas. I think that's a phenomenal idea. Now's a good time to reach out with gift cards, with email campaigns, with ways to really show your customers that you don't just take them for granted and that you do care about them. I think protecting those customers is as important as acquiring new customers in this time period. And then what I want to jump to here is the different patterns of dips and rebounds. And so after an epidemic and after these kinds of moments in e-commerce, we typically see one of 3 patterns. One is the rapid stabilization pattern. And I know you're going to have to retrain your brain, because all these graphs we've been looking at over the last couple of weeks have been, positive cases and unfortunately, human mortality tolls in different countries. And so think of this in terms of e-com, rapid stabilization. So that would mean a stable recovery soon after the outbreak ends. This is going to really closely correlate with how healthy particular nations and particular countries are able to move forward. So this is right in line with essentially this notion of flattening the curve. And so we might see this in places like Hong Kong or maybe South Korea. Short-term pantry loading, I think actually we saw a lot of this. Anecdotally, I can say we saw a massive spike across a number of different verticals, as you would imagine: health, beauty, pet supplies, home goods, cleaning products, Purell, hand sanitizers, wipes, all those things. And then it actually flattened out, and a big reason for that flattening out is a supply side issue. that supply side issue just being those alpha, those hero SKUs stocking out. And because of supply chain disruptions, brands having a difficult time getting that stock back in place, which we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And then the third pattern is the dip and rebound. We see a quick rebound right after the crisis. And I think it would be irresponsible for me to sit here and tell you what's going to happen, because I don't think anybody really knows for sure, and this experience isn't going to be uniform, but we can use past as precedent for what we might expect. What was big this week, it did happen the other day, and is Amazon made a fulfillment announcement, which Chad alluded to in his open as well. And this is where I think it's really important to make sure that you are following the facts and not potential clickbait articles, because I saw this news originally shared, and I saw some people sharing it on social media as Amazon has stopped selling certain products in certain categories, and that's not true. What Amazon is doing is prioritizing inbound products coming into their fulfillment network. And the reason that they're doing that, and that started on March 17th, it will run through April 5th. The reason that they're doing that is because those products that are in the highest demand right now, those cleaning products, those beauty products, those health products that are in the highest demand, those household staples, they've stocked out. And so Amazon is no longer a destination that's working for customers, because people are looking for things and their demand can't be met because the selection has gone out of stock, and Amazon wants to get that stock back into place. So if you are in Seller Central, I'm assuming most of the audience are sellers and not vendors, but we'll cover both. Under the news section, you'll see this announcement. In Vendor Central, you'll see the same thing. A few other specific callouts specific to Vendor Central. So vendor, just real quick lesson, vendor, 1P vendor, that means Amazon is your customer. You're selling directly to Amazon, and then it shows up on the detail page as shipped and sold by Amazon. 3P, I probably don't have to get into that. I assume most of the folks on the line are 3P sellers. But for vendors, they got a message as well saying that they were going to see reduced purchase orders. Essentially, that means Amazon is going to stop ordering from them. That's their lifeline, that's their bloodline, that keeps the lights on, it keeps their employees paid. And also extended delivery windows for existing POs. So basically Amazon said, we're going to be cutting down on what we're ordering from you, but we're extending delivery windows for the things we've already ordered from you. And what they're doing is prioritizing these specific categories. So baby products, health and household, beauty and personal care, grocery, industrial and scientific, and pet supplies. And again, the reason for this is because these are the product types and the categories that are the highest demand right now. These are what consumers are wanting. And so these are the products that stocked out very quickly. So Amazon wants to prioritize receiving these. So Amazon is not allowing you to create inbound FBA shipments for ASINs, which fall outside of these categories between March 17th and April 5th. Note that between March 17th and April 5th does not mean forever. Also note that if you have inventory in Amazon's fulfillment network, it's not being disturbed at all. They're not going to discontinue sending that product to end users. That's not the case at all. I don't know if David was originally going to go more into this in his section, but I can touch on it here, is that Amazon is determining what category of product lives within using this ITK, which is an item type keyword. And so you can see here an item type keyword. You can find that in the flat file upload for a particular product category, and also in the 1x1. And also that's a data field that's available through systems like Skivana, for example, that are running off of Amazon's MWS. But of course, what was one of the first thought? What are some bad actors going to do? There's going to be bad actors who try to categorize their sunglasses or their shoes as, baby wipes or as hand sanitizer, or as hand cleaner. They won't. Amazon is not accepting reclassification of listings at this time, in particular and specifically to protect against those bad actors and those black hat kind of tactics. I mean, there's a business ethic component to that as well. That's I won't get into, but essentially this is how Amazon is defining those. If your product is correctly classified and you're not able to create a shipment, that basically means Amazon is saying it's not prioritized at this time. Okay, so again, What are the most important things to remember in these moments? What are the facts? What can I do? What is my plan? So for 3P sellers or 1P, 3P hybrid operators, and what I mean by that, it means you have both a seller central account and a vendor central account. You can still sell products in those categories using fulfilled by merchant, FBM, or seller fulfilled prime, SFP, and I'll get to that in a moment as well. Now, the thing to remember about this is you can do that insofar as you're still able to fulfill. So Amazon will let you do this, but FBM is not hands-off the way that FBA is, where you send inventory in and then you're good and you let Amazon handle that for you. You have to still have an inventory and you still have to have a warehouse and people packing, labeling, marking items as with their tracking. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't try to. Your account can get suspended if you fail to meet those on-time requirements. So if that's an option for you, if you're set up for that, I absolutely recommend that that's something that you can do as a backup. Even if that means, hey, I'm not normally doing this because I'm leveraged in FBA, but you can begin to do that just with your most important SKUs to start. If you haven't done so as a result of this, you're going to want to set up your regional shipping rates and shipping windows to indicate where and when you can't ship. The last thing you want to do is say, I'm blocked from FBA, I'm going to fulfill by merchant, and then the default says that you can ship to APOs and FPOs in Puerto Rico and Guam, and you get orders from those locations, and then you say, oh, actually, I have to cancel those orders because I can't fulfill to those places. You can protect yourself against that. This is not just for sellers. This is for retailer, or this is for vendors as well. And actually, for vendors, it's even a little bit trickier because vendors don't have the option of enabling FBM. They can enable Dropship Central, so it's basically Dropship version for vendors, and this is currently applied to the US and the EU marketplaces. So this actually hasn't impacted Canada or Mexico or Japan, for example, among some other marketplaces. And then any inbound shipments that you created prior to March 17th, those will still be received. When I mentioned in the previous about setting up your shipping templates, this is within Seller Central. If you go to settings in the top right, you go down to shipping settings. You can go in and you can set your ship template so you can define based on your region. So you can see here, this particular seller has different timelines noted for Alaska and Hawaii versus the lower 48 versus Puerto Rico versus US protectorates and territories. And so if you don't ship to these places, you can disable them. But if you're switching to FBM, this is absolutely a critical component to that, so you don't get yourself in more trouble. Now, you'll notice here it says enroll now to Seller Fulfilled Prime. Obviously, that's a hot topic right now. If you are in Seller Fulfilled Prime, you're good to go, but Amazon is no longer enrolling new sellers in the program at this time. So if you're in it, great. If not, you're out of luck for now. This is not actually due to COVID at all. It's been this way for months. All right, I want to be mindful of time here as well, so I'll go through this last part briefly. This was the original content that we were going to present, is to walk through advertising. So within Amazon advertising, you have two sides of the house. DSP, that's demand side platform, that's programmatic advertising. We're not going to touch that today. Ad console, those are your cost per click. Those are your sponsored display, sponsored products, sponsored brands. I'm not going to go through each one to talk about them in terms of how they work and all those things, but I am going to talk about what you need to be mindful of them with how they function relative to the current state of affairs. So for sponsored products are the ad units that you see on detail pages, on the SERP, they're in the carousel. And these ads will only display your products when you're in the buy box. So if you are competing for the buy box with other offers, other sellers for a single ASIN, if you stock out or if you lose the buy box, you don't have to worry about these because these ads discontinue running when you're not in the buy box. And so you're not going to have to worry about paying for clicks that are driving to conversions that aren't impacting your bottom line. In contrast, sponsored brands operate at the brand level. So you have to be the registered brand owner in brand registry to be able to run these for your brand. But these do not care about buy box, and these will continue to run if ads within your campaign run out of stock as well. Now, if they all run out of stock, they'll discontinue. So you do need to be mindful of the fact that these won't just stop running based on buy box or inventory. And in sponsored display, these run both on and off Amazon. And what you want to know about these relative to buy box is that these will discontinue running when you run out of inventory, but they will turn back on once you have inventory, as long as you're still within the flight time of when those ads are running. It typically takes about 4 hours for those ad campaigns to come back on. And so from an advertising standpoint, again, the facts are important. Understanding how things work are important. So look at your advertising. What are you running these 3 ad units? And if you are, make sure that you know how each of them function relative to buy box ownership, inventory, stockouts. Upstream of that, fulfillment. If because of Amazon's announcement you are blocked from sending inbound inventory because you're in one of those categories, you do have the opportunity to switch to FBM. Also, keep in mind, April 5th isn't that far away. If you already had 2 or 3 months worth of inventory coverage in FBA prior to this announcement, the impact on you is going to be pretty minimal because you're already set up for success. What will be key here is the plan of what happens when this gets opened back up. If you're a vendor, when POs start coming in again, if you're not able to satisfy those POs, you're going to be behind the 8 ball, and Amazon will source that inventory from another seller. They don't care. They just want to get the selection. Same thing, if you're a seller, you should, to the extent that you're capable of, it's easy for me to sit here and say what you should do. If your supply lines are interrupted, ideally you'd be able to send inventory in for other product categories the moment that you're able to do that. So it doesn't mean wait for Amazon to lift this and then start trying to get inventory ready. Stage everything right now, and in the moment that Amazon lifts that on April 5th, you'll be ready to move. Again, I just want to say thank you for everybody for joining, and let's, as much as we can, stay calm, move with the facts, be strategic as possible, and be as flexible as possible, because if the one guarantee we can make is that things are changing rapidly, and the folks who are the quickest to pivot are going to be the ones who are best set up for success. And so, Chad, I'll pass it back to you.